Okay, so today we are going to make little circles of felt. These continue the cord theme that we've been working on and are very useful when it comes to doing some decorative items. For example, this sort of, it looks like an octopus tentacle and it's covered in these circles, or sculptural pieces that are covered in little cords that make these three-dimensional textures. Of course, you can make a larger loop, and you could imagine that that would work well as a bracelet or a necklace. And so learning how to close a cord to make these small loops, which can be used in this way, also lends itself to bigger pieces. Whatever you're working on, whatever your imagination takes you. Yeah? So we're going to start. So I'm going to clear my workspace and start in the usual way. So we have looked at making a 1 centimeter diameter cord, and we take that principle as well as that of the attachments and leaving a fluffy end like this. And what we want to do with this next step is to leave 2 fluffy ends. So you make your cord in the usual way by rolling, dry rolling, wet rolling, the 2-layer system, and leave 2 ends fluffy. Okay, so here's some that I've made earlier. If they get a little bit damp, you can tease them apart, and that fluffs them back up again. It's quite a fiddly thing to do, and I must admit that I like to do it when I make these. I make them in batches because some turn out better than others. Larger pieces, like the finishing of a necklace, is actually easier because you've got more room to maneuver and play. But smaller ones, like these that are almost ring size, they fit on your finger, this can be quite a fiddly little job. You can imagine it's closing up this section that's the difficult bit. If you're going to use these cords in sculptural items like this, then you can work them to this stage, which is a pre-felted stage, because they will attach actually more easily to your item. Of course, if you're going to use it as a necklace, it has to be finished off perfectly with a very smooth inside and outside. So here we go. You have your little piece. If you're starting, I would suggest starting with at least 3 fingers, maybe 4 fingers. This is a larger, but still octopus-sized tentacle, but less fiddly than the tiny ones. And I like to work in batches because sometimes you get one that is just frustrating and you need to leave it aside. So we start with this and we get ready with another piece over here. So what we're trying to do essentially is to tease apart the fluffy ends, and we're trying to get a join which is like that. 2 fluffy ends and twisted so that they join like this, and then we're wrapping it. So we sort of do this. And it's hard to show, but we're wrapping the felt around. Each other. So you're pulling it through the center, wrapping it round the side. And I like to start with that in its dry form. If it's wetted, if those fluffy ends are wet at that point, everything sticks on top of each other. So I try as much as possible to have a dry, fluffy end to do the twisting. Get ready with your soap, because this process needs a good lot of soap. Wet that down a bit more. Even give it a little bit of soap at this stage. You can see that slightly fatter on this side where I've started the twisting process, smoothing the edge with soap. We'll worry about the interior in a second. There we go. Then take this, set it down. I take my layer of fibre and I bring it through the centre of the ring and I overlap. And then I wrap it around until I have none left. None left. Try to get an even distribution of soap. And it's very fragile at this point. It easily moves out of shape and could break apart. It's always fatter where I've made the join. We can smooth that out and really work on that side if you want a very even ring. So then I would take an end of bubble wrap, would start to work the whole ring backwards and forwards, trying to get some friction, trying not to displace the fibre, always bringing it back, checking, where are we? Is it holding? I try spinning actions like this. Rubbing actions like that, flipping over, rubbing more, 2 fingers in, holding down and rubbing. Trying to work in the center of the ring and on the outside at the same time. So the interior and the exterior at the same time, as well as smoothing the sides. Now, if I was using this for a sculptural piece, like an octopus tentacle, this is sufficient. It has a ring-like structure, and because in order to make an attachment, we lay fibre over the outside and work on the centre, you would be able to use this in this pre-felted stage. But in order to make something like a necklace, the ring really has to have strength and be smooth. This, if I pull it apart, it would actually pull apart at this stage. But if you're going to produce something like this, this is sufficient. You don't need to work it all the way up to its fully felted point. that really is the principle. That's how we complete these rings.